Okay, tonight's topic is preparing for the seventh day of Pesach, Shvi'i Shel Pesach, and the topic is titled "The Importance of Song," and we'll explain what we mean by that as we go along. Okay, so why would we be talking about the importance of song? Of course, we know that the first half of the holiday is all about the exodus of Egypt, specifically leaving the bondage that was in Mitzrayim. But the second half of the holiday is the events that followed, and specifically, of course, Kriyat Yam Suf. And the seventh day of the holiday, which maybe it's just a bookend, but it's the tradition teaches us that it's the day of Kriyat Yam Suf. In fact, even there are people that have the custom of getting up early in the morning on the seventh day of the holiday and timing their reading of Az Yashir that morning at the time that the splitting of the sea would have happened, which was around daybreak at dawn. And so the custom is that that's the day. And of course, the splitting of the sea is an incredible wonder. It's one of the greatest miracles of all time. But for us, one of the things that makes it long-lasting isn't just the event and the memory of the event, but actually after the response of the people to the event was a tremendous amount of song. There's different aspects of this, but one of the things that I think is interesting in the Torah is that it's not only the people, it's not only the men who sang, but the specific credit given to Miriam leading the women in their song. Of course, if you look to the right of your screen here, you know that in the Torah, the song is recorded, all the lyrics and the words that were said in the Az Yashir Moshe. Even the way that it's written in the Torah is very memorable. One need just look at the screen and you can see how the Az Yashir is written in the Torah. When we have Shira in the Torah, and there are a few of them, they are written in an unusual way. Here you could see this Shira, Az Yashir, is written kind of like brickwork, laying bricks, and that's something that there's a reason for. The Shira of Ha'azinu is a different sense. It's too many columns, but the idea of song in the Torah is something that's very significant. Even just in the way that the Torah is written, highlights the fact that it's different, unusual, significant, and therefore has to draw our attention. And so the topic that I'd like to do tonight is to try and understand at least a little bit, certainly not a comprehensive treatment of the topic, but a little bit of what does this mean, this concept of song in the Torah? What is it trying to tell us? Why does it record certain songs? And what does it mean for us today? Is there any message that we should take from it on the seventh day of this holiday, of the holiday of Pesach? Perhaps anything that's relevant to the specific times that we're living in today. We're going to try and answer all those questions. So in order to get to where I wanted to get to, I have to talk about someone else who you probably heard of. His name was King Chizkiah. Now, King Chizkiah is very famous for a number of reasons and for good reasons. One that's on the screen, which you might be familiar with, anyone who's been to Israel and the Old City and specifically Ir David may remember the tunnel that's associated with Chizkiah, which is kind of mapped out on your screen here. You can tell that, just based on, Chizkiah did something pretty interesting and cool, which was that he was able to bring water into a city that's up on a hill. The water supply of Jerusalem does not run over the hill. No water supply runs over a hill. It runs down in the valley below. That would mean that if people needed to get water from the city of Jerusalem, they'd have to leave the city gates, as you could see in the image there, and go down and get the water from the valley below it. What Chizkiah's innovation was to do was to kind of reroute some of that water so that it would flow under the city of Jerusalem, under the old city, the city of David, and that they would have a tunnel by which they could draw from there. And this was very important because it allowed them to be able to get water without having to leave the city. This becomes is not just a matter of convenience. Of course, this is something that's very significant if there would be a major siege. And there was a major siege in the time of Chizkiah. This picture that you see there is around the time 700 BCE. So we're talking about 2,700 years ago. Kind of closer to 2750 actually. And during that time, we know that the kingdom of Ashur descended upon on Israel and a lot of other places as well to kind of assert their power. And this was done by a king named Sancheriv, who took over for his father and kind of wanted to reassert his power, and went around like a wrecking ball all over the Middle East, destroying cities, killing many, many people. And even in Judea, he took one of the most powerful fortress cities, the city of Lachish, the Torah tells us. And not only does the Torah tell us this, but we actually have tales that the king, Sancheriv himself, wrote in stone in his hometown of Nineveh. So we know that Sancheriv was pretty awful. And he therefore came and laid tremendous siege on the city of Jerusalem. And his goal was to completely destroy Chizkiyahu, who was the king at the time. Now, Chizkiyahu, what we should know about him was Chizkiyahu came after a king who was not such a wonderful king of Yehuda. And Chizkiyahu was an incredible reformer in a positive way, in the sense that he brought tremendous change to Am Yisrael in getting them to reconnect to Hashem. In fact, we see that he gets rid of a tremendous amount of Avodah Zarah, and also celebrates the holiday of Pesach, which really seems like it had not been celebrated much by the Jewish people during the time of the first Beit HaMikdash. And there are a few exceptions to that. And one of the exceptions is by King Chizkiyahu, who creates a big deal out of making the holiday of Pesach and inviting all the people of Yehuda, and many, many people come to celebrate the holiday of Pesach under Chizkiah. So one of the things that shows that he's wonderful and excellent. So he was someone that was very loyal to Hashem, but it seems like Hashem had already had his mind set to bring trouble onto Am Yisrael because they were so bad for so long. But Chizkiyahu actually, when the siege happens, Chizkiyahu turns to Hashem and actually prays, and prays extensively. And he even goes to the Navi, who we know, Yeshayahu, Isaiah, and he says to him, listen, he says, we've made some major changes here. We've done some really good things. We've brought the, he uses the imagery of a birthing woman. He said that we've brought the baby just to be almost ready to be born. The labor is happening. Give us a chance. Give me a little more time. Don't destroy the city now. You'll see, I'm going to turn the people around. Please see the steps of Teshuvah that we made, and give us a chance. Give Teshuvah a chance, if you will. And Chizkiah prays extensively to Hashem, and the prophet Yeshayahu returns to Chizkiah and says, you know what? Hashem said, don't worry. They're not going to be able to defeat you. They're not going to be able to destroy you. I'm going to take care of this problem. They won't do any substantial damage to the city. In fact, even though they're besieging the city, he says, even despite the picture that I showed you above, they will not shoot one arrow. They will not lay one finger on the city of Jerusalem. They will leave and pick up in the middle of the night. And in fact, the Torah tells us, and there's a very famous piece of artistry by Rubens, I think his name is, it's on the right. Basically, the Navi tells us that Hashem sends some kind of angel of death, and in one night, 185,000 of Sancheriv's troops are wiped out in one night. They wake up the next morning, the people in Jerusalem who had been besieged, and they see that the army of Ashur is no more. They picked up and they left, and they went home. And it's interesting. I was reading about the archaeology today, and we see that even in Nineveh, where Sancheriv went home, he has to gloat about what he did, and he gloats about destroying Lachish, this other Judean city, but not destroying Jerusalem, and saying, well, I got money from them and other things. So he makes it like he won, but actually you could tell from there that he did not win, and that there was some kind of failing and failure on the part of Sancheriv. So even though it doesn't say that 185,000 people died in one plague in one night, in fact, he takes advantage and he tries to take the defeat and declare it a victory. But the reality is that you could tell even from the archaeology that they lost, and you can't tell why they lost, but of course it's the Tanakh tells us that it was Yad Hashem that saved the people, and in a miraculous way and in a major way, and this is one of the great miracles where the city of Jerusalem is saved. And this brings me to really the text that I wanted to show you, which will be on the next slide. Let's see if I get there. Hold on. Yeah. And this midrash comes from Shir HaShirim Rabbah. It's a collection of midrashim, and this one is on the concept of, it's on Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. It doesn't have much to do with the Song of Songs itself, but it does have to do with the concept of song, which is kind of what I wanted to be our topic for tonight. And so he says that the Midrash says an amazing statement, and I'll try and read it, and you can follow along with me on the top of the screen. V'ra'oi haya Chizkiyahu lomar shira al mapelet Sancheriv. He says, and it was, the Midrash says, and it was fitting for Chizkiyahu to have sung a song on the downfall of Sancheriv. So we just saw on the previous slide, right? There was this huge miracle, right? There was a huge siege. Again, the arrows actually never came. There was a huge siege on Jerusalem. Chizkiyahu turns to Hashem and he prays hard. And this is a good guy who we said did lots of reforms and brought a lot of people closer to Hashem. And Hashem comes through and he saves with a miracle, a tremendous wonder. I'm sorry? So he here says the Midrash that as a result, Chizkiyahu should have said some kind of shira, not unlike what we see at Kriyat Yam Suf, the Aziyashir, right? Just like the people at Yam Suf sang, so too should Chizkiyahu have led the people, or he himself sung a glorious song of praise to Hashem. Dichtiv, as it says, and they're going to bring a proof for this, and this is not just like, he should have. This is like a failing on his part. He should have, and he didn't. And you'll see how the Midrash writes this. As it says in Divrei Hayamim, in one of the places where the story is recorded, V'lo chigmul alav heshiv Chizkiyahu ki gavah libo. Said, and not according to the payment that Chizkiyahu received did he return to Hashem, because he was haughty in his heart. So the pasuk says that Chizkiyahu was in some way arrogant, pride-filled, hubris, something along those lines, and as a result, he didn't give back Hashem what he should have. So this is a very puzzling statement, because Chizkiyahu is, as from everything that we could tell, a good guy. It says, At chameh Chizkiyahu melech v'tzadik, at amart ki gavah libo. So the Midrash asks, how do you equate the two? On the one hand, you say he's a king that's righteous and good, and then on the other hand, you're saying he's haughty and arrogant. What's the answer? How could that be? So the Midrash answers, and it says, Ela gavah libo melomar shira. His heart was too haughty to say shira. Meaning, of course he knew how great Hashem was. And he knew where the miracle, where the salvation came from. He prayed for it just days before, so he knew that it was from Hashem. He wasn't too haughty to think that he did it, but he was too haughty, in the words of the Midrash, too pride-filled, in order to say Shira, which we have to explain what this means. And the Midrash actually will explain it for us. It says, I'm reading the middle of the line, if you could see my pointer right there. Ata Yeshayahu legabehon techizkiyahu b'siyato. So Yeshayahu the Navi, according to the Midrash, came over to Chizkiyahu and his team of people, his advisors, and maybe his military people, Amar Lahon, and he says to them, Zamiru Hashem, sing to Hashem. Right? Yeshayahu tells them, sing to Hashem. Amrun, and they say to him, Lama, well, why? And he answers, Ki geut asa, because he did a tremendously great, amazing thing that's worthy of pride. Amarun le, they said to him, Kvar mudat zot b'chol haaretz. They said, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. And so they don't sing a song. And there's actually two rabbis now in the Midrash that explain what was Chizkiyahu thinking. If Yeshayahu was advising him that he should sing a song, sing the song to Hashem, why didn't he? So the first opinion is Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. Amar Rabbi Abba bar Kahana, Amar Chizkiyahu, Torah shani osek ba mechaperet al hashira. Chizkiyahu was prideful in the sense that he said, listen, Shira is very nice, but I'm busy learning Torah. I'm busy studying. I'm Shira. Everyone knows the Shira. Let somebody else sing the song. I'm going to be busy learning Torah, and with the Torah that I'm learning will be good enough that if there's any problem with me not singing song that the Navi told me to sing, my Torah will protect me for it. So that's the first opinion, right? The first opinion is that Chizkiyahu had the misconception, the misperception that studying Torah was so great, which the truth is, it's not such a terrible misconception, because we do know that studying Torah is great. And we do know that in certain instances, study of Torah overrides other responsibilities. So he thought, how could I depart from Torah? And when he was talking about Torah, he wasn't just studying Torah, he was involved in Torah. He was teaching the people the Torah and the mitzvot. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the class, it was his understanding that in the sake of the Torah that he was spreading to the people, that they were saved. So he said, listen, I'm busy doing Torah. I don't have time for singing and songs, especially since everybody knows this already. That's the first opinion. That's the opinion of Rabbi Abba bar Kahana. Now let's look at the second opinion, third to last line from the bottom. Amar Rabbi Levi. Rabbi Levi said, Amar Chizkiyahu. Chizkiyahu had a different statement. He said, what do we need to say about the miracles and might of Hashem? Everyone knows about the Kriyat Yamsuf from everyone knows about the greatness of Hashem from this end of the world to the other end of the world. Didn't the people in the time of Yehoshua see that the sun stood still? Everyone knows that, and I'll paraphrase. Didn't they already sing the song at Kriyat Yamsuf, right, where the sea split, and everyone knew, and everyone saw, and everyone understood, and so what am I adding? I have nothing new to add. What am I going to say? Hashem is great. Moshe said it. What am I going to say? Hashem is great. Yehoshua said it. What am I going to say? Hashem is great. David said it. I have nothing to add, said Chizkiyahu. And with that, the Midrash kind of ends the topic. And so we have to understand, what is this Midrash trying to tell us, right? Again, it's Chizkiyahu. He's a good guy. He's a king that's so good that he's worthy of making tremendous changes and bringing the people to do teshuvah. But not only that, he's close to Hashem, so close to Hashem that he's able to avert a tremendous gezerah where the siege around Jerusalem is there. And we know how sieges around Jerusalem can go. The city was certainly in a place where it could have been destroyed, hundreds of thousands of troops around the city. And yet he's able to turn to Hashem and pray to him and make a good case to say, save the city. And Hashem agrees with him. And he says, I'm going to save the city. And so he's a great guy. And yet here this Midrash is saying, Chizkiyahu, no, you made a big mistake by not saying Shira. By not saying Shira, you missed out. But what did he miss out? And when we look at the points that Chizkiyahu makes, we kind of say, okay, I understand that, right? His point, which is that I have nothing new to add by saying Shira. Right? What am I adding by saying Shira? I have other things that I have to contribute into the world. I have to study Torah. I have to make sure that other people are learning Torah. What am I adding by singing the song of Shira to Hashem? But the Midrash is taking him to task, and there has to be a reason for it. And I think the reason is highlighted by that last statement where Rabbi Levi said that Chizkiyahu's thinking in error was that if it's known already, I don't have to sing Shira. And on this, it's where he misunderstood what the purpose of Shira is, and that the Midrash and Shira Shi'im is explaining the value and the purpose of Shira in our religion, in our practice. Shira is not about giving new facts. Shira is not about telling me something I didn't know before. That's not what Shira is for. Shira is something that's specific. Shira is something that is there for the purpose of my expression, of my emotion and my feeling of my particular moment and what's happening in my life. And Shira, therefore, is unique to each and every person. So the Shira that I will sing at Az Yashir is not the same information, it's not the same experience, it's not the same feeling that I would have felt when the sun stands still in the time of Yehoshua, or in the time of Chizkiyahu, where Hashem brings this tremendous plague on the troops of Sancheriv to save them. It's a different emotion, it's a different experience. And it was required at that time for Chizkiyahu to actually say the Shira. It's very interesting. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin, I don't remember the exact page, says that would he have said Shira, built off of this Midrash, would he have said Shira, he would have been the Mashiach. And by him not saying the Shira, there was a tremendous lacking on his part. And so it's something that we have to learn. And I kind of want to quote a beautiful quote that I heard from Rabbi Jonathan Sachs just the other day. He says there's a big difference between poetry and music and prose and the facts. And he says, the mind speaks, but the soul sings. And what he meant to say by this is that, intellectually, we can explain things, we could talk things out, we could explain it, we could write it down. And sometimes you have nothing new to add. So if you have nothing new to add, so don't say anything. He says, but when it comes to my emotions, my praise of Hashem, my sorrow, because song is not always positive, as we see in Ha'azinu, sometimes the song has other purposes. But my emotion, that's my unique emotion, needs to be expressed. My soul needs to be poured out. It's not something that could be contained. Very similar to the prophecy that Yirmiyahu speaks of. It's like a burning coal inside of you. It has to come out. And a person who keeps it inside, a person who has no feeling, a person who thinks, I have nothing to add, my experience, it means he didn't really experience the importance of song. So I think this is what we have to learn about the second half of the holiday. When we started, we said that the beauty of this holiday, which is commemorating the seventh day of Pesach, which is the seventh day of Pesach, which is commemorating Kriyat Yam Suf, is also commemorating the reaction to Kriyat Yam Suf. And it's important. The Torah recorded this for us and has it say it over and over again to understand that this, not only their reaction, not only to read their reaction at Kriyat Yam Suf, but also to understand the importance of having an emotional reaction to God's hand. and to having what we'll now say through our study of Chizkiah as a unique reaction to what Hashem has to say. I think this is something really, really important. So on the first half of the holiday, we learn a lot about telling a story. Right? And that's what the whole first half of the holiday is about. The Seder and the Haggadah and Beyda Levincha. It's all about telling the story, telling and identifying that. And we talked about that in our class last week. But now as we turn to the second half of the holiday, beginning tomorrow night, and specifically the Az Yashir that we sing every morning, but that we're going to sing with a little extra oomph on the seventh day of the holiday, I think it's upon us to not only sing the song that they sang, but to remember that they sang a song. And that it's important for us to have not only an intellectual connection with Hashem, but an emotional connection to Hashem. And that Hashem wants and needs us to each have that connection. We want our soul to sing our own particular individual songs of the things that we're going through. And perhaps we could say that this is why so much of our tefillah is musical. So much do we sing, because we want to be emotional. We want we want our feelings to be tapped into in ways that just plain reading and just plain sharing can't do. So that's really where I want to stop tonight, and give you something to think about in terms of what the holiday, the seventh day of the holiday, is all about. It's all about the Shirah and the importance of Shirah, and not only that Shirah, but the concept that Shirah established for us, that it's important for us to connect emotionally to Hashem, and that the song is the way to do it. So something to think about on the holiday, and hopefully we're making good use of the song. Take out the Pizmon book, go online in a little bit here, Yaakov Salem, in about 15 minutes from now, these things are important. It's not learning another daf. It's not understanding a halacha, which is very important. We're not going to take away from that, but it's something else. It's an important part. It's a different part of the religion. It's the emotional part, the lev, the heart, and it needs to be spoken to, and it needs to speak. So it's important for us. Bezrat Hashem, we take this message to heart, and hopefully it won't be long before we'll be singing Shirah over the Geulah that Hashem has given us from the Magefa that we're facing today. That'd be really good. Chag Sameach.
Amen. Baruch.
Chag Sameach. Thank you very much.
Happy holiday, everybody. Good night.
Chag Sameach.
Thank you.